Howdy team, and welcome back to another weekly webinar. This week we are going through fueling your training. A lot of your training is ramping up, a lot of your sessions are getting harder, a lot of your workouts are getting more intense. Some of you are obviously adding in things like running, get my words out, for example, or extra PT. So there's lots going on in terms of the progression of training over, especially as we go through April, as gyms return and things like that. So I wanted to touch quickly on fueling your training and just go really specific with it, or as specific as I can for each and every one of you on video. Again, target is this one's going to be about 10 minutes long. It's going to be really interesting for all of you to think about food as fuel rather than this calories in, calories out that we do spend a lot of time focusing on, because it's essential for fat loss. But I want to try and just like put you into a position where you can reframe that thought process ever so slightly, even if just by 5%. It's going to help as we look to fuel your performance around training. So first thing that I want to come to is obviously each of your goals are completely different. So I'm going to try and give examples around training, PT, running and things like that, just to suit each and every single one of you. But remembering that, you know, we are all at a point where we're targeting fat loss at the moment. So that's kind of our fundamental goal. So we've got to be cautious when we're speaking about calories and how we balance them to fuel our training. That's the first thing that I want to touch on. So going over 2 calories when we're looking at fueling our training, you know, you've all been set calorie targets. None of you really are set any lower than 1400. I know we're still trying to bring food up in some cases, but realistically, that's kind of the number that I'd rather work up from than down from. So we're looking to bring food up to at least that point. And then we're looking at what we're eating and we're trying to match it, because I speak about performance so much in your training. Speak about if you perform well, train well, you perform better in kind of all aspects of your life, we're going to get fitter, healthier, happier, stronger, and that's what we're on this process for. So when we're looking at fueling our performance, that's exactly what we're looking to do. And I'm not just talking about your training, I'm talking about your performance at work, I'm talking about how you feel just day to day, your general mood, your energy levels, happiness massively, food enjoyment, all these kind of things. You know, energy is needed to get through that 9 to 5 job, to train, to get those steps in, to go on that cycle ride, or to meet that friend for a walk, or to go for a run. All of that requires energy. So we have to bring enough in to be able to go and do those things, and we have to balance it in the middle, whereby over time, consistently, that might not necessarily mean daily, but over time and consistently, we're in that calorie deficit, so we can work towards that goal that I touched on, okay? In terms of looking to drop body fat for the most part, okay? So we want to try and not butt heads here, because if we're tanking our calories and we're not eating enough and we're trying to perform at our best, crush work all day, be a good partner, you know, have the energy and just the drive to go for a walk or keep those steps up throughout the day and then hit your training sessions, if we're tanking our calories on one end, we're trying to perform up there at the other, you can just see it's not going to meet. And what will happen is that performance will drop, that movement will drop, the energy that you put into your training will drop. All of that will drop, meaning that you're actually then burning less calories, and we bring ourselves down to this lower calorie point and we don't create a big deficit because we're not moving and performing as well as we can do, okay? So what we need to do is bring that food up, keep performance targets where we want it, then we keep that nice difference in the middle. We can keep crushing our day-to-day lives, fueling our performance. That is the main takeaway message for this video. So how do we go about fueling it? Well, we've touched on protein and carbs before, and they're really the 2 main go-to sources that I'm going to focus on today, okay? Fats are going to help, generally like slower releasing energy. There's a bit more of kind of a breakdown process that goes on there, and you know, they are energy fundamentally because they're 9 calories a gram. They're the most energy filled macronutrient that we actually consume. But what we're looking for is performance, and generally speaking, that's linked with carbs and protein. So first off, protein. Previous videos that I need to make sure I can link somewhere for you, but previous videos have gone through protein being 4 calories per gram. All of you have set the target of a minimum of 80 grams of protein per day for the exact reasons of recovery, strength. It's essential. We get all our essential amino acids in from the foods that we eat that contain protein, so we need to be consuming enough protein each day. Generally, other than that, you've got just your general health, bone health, hair health, gut health, cardiovascular health, obviously rebuilding of muscle tissue from damage due to training, recovery in general. So protein's super, super important. And we want to be making sure, irrelevant of MyFitnessPal, I want to kind of take that off your mind for a second. I just want you to look at each plate that you eat each day, whether it's 2 main meals or 3 main meals, however it is that we're eating. I want you to look at those plates and go, where's my protein source? Okay, now we've gone through protein sources before. Really quickly, we're thinking meat alternatives, fish, dairy. There is trace protein in all sorts of other things, like I love a bagel, we can get 9 grams in a bagel, things like that. But for the simplicity of this webinar, meat alternatives, fish, dairy, or protein-based supplement source like protein powder. So look at each meal and go, where's my protein source? If there's an obvious protein source on there, specifically meat alternative, protein powder, fish, we're going to be getting at least 20 grams from that option. Dairy, we're going to be looking at eggs anywhere between 8 and 20. So if we can see that in each meal, we're already building a base. We're already at 60 grams if it's 20 grams across all 3 meals. Chances are it will be more like 25 to 35, which in theory should put us anywhere between 75 and 90 grams or 100 grams of protein per day, especially when we're throwing in those little snacks. So that's what I want you to think about. Protein yogurts, jerky, things like that, and making sure that you're utilising that protein just consistently. We're not necessarily looking at protein timing. You don't necessarily need to be consuming protein within 3 minutes of your workout because there's an anabolic threshold that we need to meet. That's not necessarily the case, but what we do need to be doing is just strip it back. Be simplistic with it. Every meal, where's my protein source? That's one thing that I really want you guys to look at this next week. Then we go over to carbs. Same thing, 4 calories per gram, body's main source of energy. Brain's main source of energy as well. Now, technically they're not essential. I would argue they are, and you don't want to see me when I'm cutting carbs for whatever reason, which I hardly ever do. And I know that a lot of people within everybody that I work with, and probably the world without going too general, there's a bit of a fear about carbs. And I kind of want to remove that a little bit just by saying how important they are as a fuel source. Now, they don't need to be in every meal. They're not in every one of my meals, and they change in their volume depending on what's going on with my training. And that's the tool that I want to impart on you guys today, is your nutrient timing, I think, is better placed in your carbs. So if you've got a couple of big training sessions coming up, or you train in the morning but you train fasted, carbs in your evening meal, and set that throughout the week so that we've got that base level of energy stored, that muscle glycogen stored where it's meant to be, in those muscles. Yes, with 3 parts water, that's absolutely fine, but it's stored in there, ready to be utilised, ready to be put to work as energy so that we can perform. And that's what it's there for. So yeah, things like morning training. If you train fasted, make sure you've got some carbs in your evening meal. If you train at the end of the day, think about making sure your lunch has got some carb substance to it, or like a mid-afternoon snack has some kind of carb substance to it. Have a look at the glycemic index, look at where things fall. Like watermelon's way high up there for really good releasing energy. Oats fall in the middle, so does brown rice and things like that. Potatoes fall quite high up. At the other end of that glycemic index, you've got things like your sweets and your quick releasing carbs that can give you that little bit of energy that we might need to just go into performance. But it's also things like if you're just feeling like your energy is tanking throughout the day at work, you know, and we're reaching for that 5th, 6th coffee, whatever it might be, think about, am I stripping my carbs back too much? Can I eat a few more carbs? As I said, I don't set carb targets because I want you to make I want you to find that balance between fats and carbs that works for you. But you do get set your protein target and you get set your calorie target. But we can utilise these and we can time them in a way that just helps us kick ass a little bit more. And that's exactly what we want to do for ourselves, for our goals, for our journeys, for our lives in general, okay? So start thinking about the fuel timing in and around your meals, depending on your training. If you're in the gym early, say Tuesday, Thursday morning, maybe Monday and Wednesday evening's dinner, that's got some carbs in there, ready for us to get up, go and hit that session. If we're doing a double session, for example, or legs is your hardest session of the week, thinking about things that way. Or we're hitting our run on a Saturday morning, some carbs in there on that Friday night, maybe a little bit of carbs Saturday morning, then we go. Doesn't mean your calories need to change in any way, shape or form. We're just utilising the energy and the timing of it to suit us better. Because as I said at the start of this video, all of your training is gearing up. You know, there's intensity increases happening every time I reprogram, every time we start a new block. Increasing running, increasing steps, returning to a gym. The intensity is on the way up and we need to match that with fuel. Now, all I will say on that, and that's why I've got caution at the top, is we need to make sure that we're not trying to eat back the calories that we're consuming, okay? Or that we're burning, sorry. We need to try and not eat back those calories. What we're looking to do, as I said at the start, is perform really, really well. Have good sessions, good steps, good day at work, all of those things. Move well throughout the day. That might put our calorie burn at 2,200, for example, for the day, okay? And it might be that your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or MyFitnessPal says you've burnt 600 calories on top of your target. So your target is maybe 1,600. You've burnt 600 calories on top of your target. We're at 2,200. You can eat back those 600. No, you can't. I hate to be the party pooper. We don't have, it's not that exact a science, okay? We have our TDE calculators. You have your calorie targets that have set you individually. I know the calories you should be eating to try and drop body fat. We're still trying to balance that out if body fat dropping is our goal or if we're looking to build muscle, wherever that may be. We're still trying to balance that out. So if our training intensity is going up, chances are, depending on what your weight does over, say, April, I might play with the amount of calories that are open to you to consume on any given day. But what we're looking to do is be consistent with them. If you do have a low day, you do come in at 1,200 calories one day, we can maybe then go, oh, I'm training hard the next day, I can afford to go 1,500, 1,600, balance it out and fuel my performance. But we're never looking to go more than, say, 200 up, because that's a nice number where we can stay in control and we understand what's going on. We're not looking to our watches for a science that is a really good accountability tool on our watch, but inaccurate, and then following what MyFitnessPal says and eating back our 600 and undoing all our hard work. We're looking to increase performance, to increase that deficit, whilst we're making sure we're consuming a good level of calories that helps us increase that performance, okay? So that we can do this with it. Ultimately, I want you to eat as much as possible, perform as well as possible, and hit any muscle building or fat loss goals as easily as possible. So we're trying to balance all three. You're all doing absolutely brilliant at it. I hope this gives you a nice visual reference for your training as we go into April. Let's go and smash it.